Hey there, it's Tom here, and today we have a care video for the Epipremnum Amplissimum. Okay, so the Amplissimum is directly related to Pothos, which you may have got from the Epipremnum name. I actually think the leaves look a little bit more similar to a peace lily than an actual normal Pothos leaf. They are very long and skinny and just, yeah, they even have the shape a little bit of a peace lily leaf as well. I will show you the three leaves side by side so you can compare. Do you agree with me, or do you think they do look more like a Pothos leaf? However, it does inherit the easygoing nature, which is obviously a good thing. You want an easygoing plant, and this is definitely one to look for. Which brings us on to the next part, availability. They're not rare house plants, but you will struggle to find one, in my opinion. They're not easy to find at this moment in time. They've been around for many, many years, but they're just not popular. I don't know why. They are just as simple to have in your home as a normal pothos. There are three types available. There are the all green variety, which is arguably the most common, which is this one. There's a one called silver streak or silver stripe. I forgot what it's called now. But yeah, either way, I will definitely confirm here which one it is. And then there's a variegated version, which I've never seen in real life. But yeah, we're going to get into the care guide now. I'll tell you how to look after it and what to do. But if you have one of these plants, then I think you're quite lucky because they're brilliant. I'm going to keep talking about pothos here because that's quite a common houseplant that a lot of people know how to look after, but it's true. So it's difficult for me not to compare the two. They don't mind a variety of light conditions. So normal pothos can cope with low lights, so can these. In fact, this plant has been growing on a shelf which does not have direct access to a window. And it's fine-ish. There are some small issues. So basically, if there's not enough light, what will happen is the plant will be okay. It will look okay, all right. It will produce occasional leaves, but it creates runners instead. So it will produce long vines, which I'll show you in a clip. And that's due to not enough light. It's searching for a stronger light source. Now, the plant will cope for years in this condition, in low light, but it would just keep producing these runners, which are unattractive. They don't look great. So you can trim them off over time if you would like to do that, absolutely fine, but it's not optimal. If you really want to grow the plant well and you want a fast growing plant, essentially, you need to provide good light levels, which is something that you don't want full sun, too much sun they don't like, but they don't mind very early morning and very late evening. That's probably tolerated, but avoid anything during the day for sun. But if you can provide a good light location out of direct sunlight, you will have a fast growing plant on your hands. Okay, so watering is really straightforward as well. They like to be watered well and then don't water again until they've dried out. I would say they're quite thirsty houseplants. Yeah, so even though mine's in low light location, it dries out about every week or so and it needs water. They hang, okay? So if when the water dries, when they dry out completely and they need water, they droop slightly. Not as significant as a peace lily or a plant like that, but they do hang slightly. There's a like this, and you know it's time to water. And yeah, mine dries out fast. That doesn't mean to say yours will. It could be because of the size of my plant and where it is, perhaps. It's quite warm, but it is low light. So it's a balance. It's just fill the potting mix and or wait till it droops. I have had no ill effect from doing that over many, many years. So if you let it dry out and it droops slightly and then water it, it works for me. So hopefully that will be the same for you as well. Now, overdoing it, if you water them too much, so too frequently, or just provide far too much water at that moment that you water it, then the next morning you may notice water dripping from the leaves or it's crying. Now, it's very common with pothos plants, and it's usually an early warning sign of slight overwatering. So do be really careful. If you go a step above this, so you provide even more water, then you're going to end up with yellow leaves, which is a clear sign of overwatering and then possible root rot as well. So do take care with that. But they are very straightforward. So it's water it well and then wait till it's either completely dried out or almost dried out. Okay, repotting, you're probably going to do it every 3, 2, maybe 1. Maybe that's a bit much. You don't need to do it that often. Every few years is what I'm going to say to give you the scope. Okay, so just repot when the plant either outgrows its existing container or you notice the potting mix is breaking down, it's no longer holding water. That's when it's time to repot it. When you do come to repot, they will grow in practically anything, but you do want to avoid heavy and dense soils. So that's the only thing I'll tell you to avoid. So if you get something specifically designed for houseplants, you're going to be fine. If you get something that's designed for sort of garden plants, maybe something really heavy and just if it's heavy to lift the bag, sorry, for the size of relatively for what it is, then it's probably too heavy for this plant. It's probably too dense for this house plant. The number one issue people run into with the Amplissimum is overwatering. So a potting mix which holds crazy amounts of water is just going to massively increase that happening. So do yourself a favor and just avoid heavy potting mixes. Temperature, they are tropical plants, so they would prefer it warmer. However, a normal average home temperature is going to be absolutely fine for these plants. You don't need to worry. They're not cold hardy, so if you put them outside during the summer, do bring them inside when it gets cold. They don't like it cold, basically. That's all you have to remember. But yeah, straightforward, simple. As for humidity levels, okay, so my home has around 50 to 60% most of the year round, and I haven't had any issues. If you live in a country or your home has low humidity levels and we're talking maybe below 50%, you may start to notice the usual symptoms of that. Brown leaves and just sort of unhealthy. The leaves maybe come out really, really small. Any of those signs could be an indication of low humidity, and you may need to find ways to increase them. But that would just be your usual stuff like a humidifier, things like that. As for feeding, they're not particularly heavy feeders. If you have yours growing in a better light location than mine, for example, and you are producing a lot of growth, then you will need to sustain that with feed. So you will be looking to feed probably once a month, maybe every 6 weeks. A normal houseplant fertilizer is absolutely fine. If you are deciding to grow yours in a low light location, like me, absolutely fine. They just need less feeding. Okay, so I'd probably feed mine maybe once every 3 months, and that's absolutely fine. Let's talk about propagation and how you can grow this plant. So propagation is straightforward. I usually do it in the spring or summer, and you just do it by stem cuttings. It's like a normal pothos. You can just literally cut the stems underneath a node and it will root, so it's good. The nodes aren't quite as obvious on the Amplissimum as a normal pothos plant. They're a little bit harder to see, but they are on there and they're in their usual places, but they're a little bit smaller. But other than that, the methods and how you do it is the same. You can grow them up coconut core totem or moss pole. Depending on what you want to call it. They're the same thing really, but you can choose how you want to grow it. So if you want it grown up, then it's absolutely fine to do that as well. You may need to help support the stems as they grow up, tie them into the poles, but you can grow them upwards. If you do that, the leaves will get bigger. If you leave them contained like in a container and hanging, they will stay relatively small. It's the look that you want, basically. So choose the look that you would like. But either one of those is fine, and they can grow in either of those ways. Okay, so that's it for this houseplant. This video may be a little bit shorter than some of my other ones, but it's a really straightforward houseplant that doesn't need me to tell you loads of little bits and pieces that need to be done or not done, because it's pretty much, you just leave it alone. They're like normal pothos plants. They can just thrive on a level of neglect, which is just what we like sometimes, don't we? Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any specific questions, then do share. If you have tips for me, I always say this because I may have been growing this plant for 4 years now, but it doesn't mean to say I'm a complete, absolute expert on the topic. So if you have this plant and you've grown it for longer, or you have some things that you've spotted that I haven't covered, share. I'd love to learn more from you. So please do comment, and I would love to hear from you. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video, and thank you for your time today and for watching.